Yo, 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 what's going on, studettes? How y'all doing? Can all hear Bulls on Wall Street? Guys, let's do a little bit of work today. Couple things we want to talk about today's video. Number one, let's go over what the heck is happening in the market, what's happening in the indexes with rates, small caps, large caps, all that kind of fun stuff. Then, after that, give me a couple minutes of that, and then we will dive into today's watch list. I've got a great, fantastic list, a mix of hot tech stocks, some overextended shorts, and then we have some earnings plays like PLTR that could take off. So let's first take a look at the individual markets, right? Let's take a look and see what the action was on the QQQs first. So today we had what's called an inside day. So it's just a narrow range day inside the previous day's range. If you look at the overall market, it dumped off at the open here. It looked like it was getting pretty nasty for a second. I wouldn't say this is like a big zone of support, but it used up a good chunk of its ATR, right? So this is what we call like an ATR bounce. So the ATR in the Qs is 5 points, right? Once you kind of dump off 4 or 5 points, like in a hot market, you start to often grind back. Usually it's not a V-shaped recovery. You might do a little bit of double bottom, a W pattern, but we ended up grinding back and the market got saved at the end of the day and finished flat. It's been doing that a lot, guys. There are short setups in this market, and there were some fantastic ones in the morning, right, in AMD and in coin, but they are getting, the market itself on the indexes are getting grinded back. And so you have to be a little bit more specific when you try to short something. You want to take shorts if you do short on stocks that are really not like your big, magnificent, 7 stocks, or at least stay away from like NVIDIA and stuff like that. There's other kinds of names here, like these kind of more IWM type of stocks that represent risk that are a little bit better. But overall, we just had a flat day in the market. It looked nasty for a second. The QQQs was down about 0.9% at one time, and then, it rebounded. You can see here on the SPY, we had the big day Friday, inside day, very narrow range day inside that day. And if you look at the, kind of the action on the SPY, very similar. You had a gap down, you got shredded down at the open, and then you just grinded right back almost to even. You're dumping and they're just turning the algos on and grinding back to even. I think that's, something that we have to keep in the back of our heads. IWM was a little bit more troublesome. We're just not getting any traction in your mid-cap, to small cap markets. Some of this IWM weakness is more due to the banks. You can see Korea has just been in a big downtrend for the last 4 or 5 days. It's down 1.5% today. The IWM's got a lot of banks in it, so that's adding the sell pressure to the IWM. So in conclusion, the market is still hot, but it is still very, very concentrated in some of the bigger names, and we're not getting any signs yet that that's changing. A couple of things to remember from last week, right? Uncle Jerome came on and said there's probably not going to be any cuts in the market in terms of interest rates, and so the market did not react well in terms of the small caps to that, but the large caps have been held up pretty fine. He even came on 60 Minutes on Sunday and was like, no, we're not doing anything. The economy's great. I don't know. I guess that's his thing, right? So he did say there's going to be some cuts, but when, where, right? He's got to take it case by case. But in the meantime, we got to just trade what we see, and there are still some great plays out there because it's earnings season. Let's take a look at the watch list. I'm going to take this into buckets, right? Let's take this into buckets so we get a little bit more organized. So I got 2 stocks that look like they're about to be parabolic shorts here, and that is SMCI and NVIDIA. So SMCI is up 18 points today. 91 stochastics. It's completely outside the upper Bollinger Band, about half the candle. I would not touch this just yet, but 100-point move. We're getting the blow-off move, right? We're getting the blow-off move. If this gaps up, if this holds this gap tomorrow and it gaps up, say we tap into the 700 or something like that, we're gonna have to try to take this bad boy down. We're gonna have to take this bad boy down. I mean, traders are having a lot of fun with this. Look at the options pricing on some of this shit, right? Like 800%, 79%, 6%. And this been happening every day, right? Today was the biggest day. 100 points, man. 100 damn points. This is how dreams are made. Unfortunately, man, I was sitting there just looking at this one over here, and I was like, man, it's so extended. It's up 40 points today, right? And it still keeps going. That's the sign of, right, really a theme that's playing out here, which is AI, semiconductors, all of this kind of stuff. Gap it up, man. The bigger, the better, right? The bigger, the better. I think we'll have a chance on this. On the smaller side, right? We got a similar kind of move happening in NVIDIA after hours. It's a much thicker stock, obviously. Let's see if this thing gaps up tomorrow. We got we got one gap, two gaps, so two gaps in a row. A third gap, that's a very high level setup. Now, once again, the trend is not over, so don't be, texting me and doing all this. The trend is not over, but we're talking about a counter trend snapback trade, which can be very profitable. It sometimes takes a couple tries because it's hard to go counter trend. But look, the 9 EMA on this is at 637, right? Do we gap this thing up? We've got to try, right? We've got to try just for freaking moral purposes, right? To add some balance back to the force. No, but a rubber band short is a high-level setup. It's a parabolic setup. You want the candle outside the upper Bollinger Band. You want a 90-plus stochastics. And ideally, you get an exhaustion gap or what we would call a sucker's gap. Oftentimes, when people see a gap up, right, they start to try to chase the long on it, and that's when we want to see the rug. Man, like an over-under on 700 or something like that would be awesome. But frankly, push this piggy up. The higher, the better. Holy crap. And, on the other side of things, we should just marvel and, and give applause to the people that are long this thing, that bought the breakout. And we're actually able to hold through it. Like, we all bought the breakout, right? But how many of us just took a buck here, buck there, and missed this just monster's whole move? That's life, right? Learn some lessons here and always remember your market cycle. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, holy crap. We had this on our swing trade service, a little bit sub 400. We have part-time trader service. And I think we ended up selling even out of that at like 540. So, what can you do, man? This thing is incredible. Gap this piggy up on SMCI. We'll be good to go. So that's your counter trend, parabolic short setup. Now let's go into the second bucket, which is like news plays. All right. This FDMT was a biotech stock, gapped up 80 points today. It held up pretty well. It was in a pretty narrow range day. I think with the float on this, that it did 20 million shares in volume. The float on this is 34 milli, bros. That's dude. This is right for a day two play. Let's add that bad boy. That is right for a day two play. GCT, this is a little bit of a sloppy chart, because it's got a lot of wicks and stuff. The volume's been picking up on this thing. It had some pretty good range on this, breaking basically a flag pattern. I like the overall look of that. Let's add that as a potential day two play. Old Elan, not Elon, but Elan. This is a healthcare type of company, 10 million shares in volume. You've got a flag breakout that's happening here. Pretty good liquidity, decent enough on the float side. It's not like too thick. It's 178 million. That's a nice number where you can get good liquidity. I like that for a day two. VKTX is a biotech stock that's got a nice breakout that's setting up right here. You really want to pay attention, right? We got a spot here right about 25.10. I'm loving the overall look of that bad boy. MPC, test, breakout, and then a consolidation right after that, right? Which is very, very powerful. You can see the dip on this got bought up. This is a little bit more of a grinder. It's going to move 3-4% for the day. It's not going to give you a 20% move or something like that. It's a thicker stock, in terms of market cap and all this stuff. It's a $66 billion company. So it's not going to move the way, a tech stock would, but I think that's just a nice cash flow type of trade. We get a weak open, a red to green on that. I think that's good. Nice relative strength today in terms of an inside day on app. I think this was, the false breakdown on this flat top over here. And now we have an inside day. Guys, I love in this kind of bull market, I love inside days, man. You get this big trend, get a nice narrow range day after that, man. That's good. That's good chatters right there. Let's keep that one. I've got an alert set on S here, still 28.36. XPO. This was an earnings day, and then you get an inside day. I love, this is like my favorite type of pattern on a post-earnings, right? You pop, narrow range, close like fairly close to the top of the previous day's range. This is a show and go, man. Weak open, flat open, take up 97. You probably, look at the way this thing can kind of pop here. You're talking, man, this thing's got a chance on it. And I forgot what the news was. The earnings already came out, but there was something that came out yesterday on this bad boy. But it's earnings that looks like it's actually in 2 days. That's still a good-looking setup right there. Lennar, this is more of a swing trade setup here. I wouldn't worry about that. Snap is also a swing trade setup. This is 1754. I don't think there's a good day trader. For me, if this thing clears, that's like a stop under the 9 EMA. You swing that bad boy. Snow, I would consider Snow a inside day too. All right? So you have the big trend, narrow range. Dude, not even just the narrowest of ranges, right? Like this thing is really just sat between this and this for most of the day, minus that opening dump. That's got a good, nice setup on it. And then you've got shop here, right? Pop up inside day. That's a buenos, right? That's a buenos. Now we got a couple names that are popping after hours. This PLTR, this could be a Juicy McGee. Now look, it's a 2 billion share float. It's not going to, it may not go just gangbusters here. It may need to pull. We'll see how much volume comes in and all this kind of stuff. Let's see right now what this bad boy, how it's flowing after hours. But you can see it's coming in okay so far. But that's, this is a thick one. But look, last time it had earnings out, the volume did get 100 million share plus, and then it ran for a few days. So we got a chance on it. Let's add this to the list for tomorrow. I think that one's got a nice little setup on it. And this old Core, CHOR, this one's a little Meditech company too. You've got a flag breakout here on the daily. Earnings came after hours. Revenues fall. Fiscal earnings outlook raised. Right? Whatever that means. No, I'm just kidding. But hey, man, you got a nice reaction on this. It's 140 million share float, so a good sweet spot of, the lower float stocks can be very tricky to trade sometimes. You got to have really nimble fingers. This like kind of nice mid to small is a good spot here. Dude, you'll have the liquidity on this, and you should have some good range on this. So we'll get into that. NXPI had earnings out. It's hard to read this action so far. But we'll see, man. There's a spot here at 240. They got rejected already. Let's see how this starts to react in pre-market. Does it build? Does it build? One thing we have seen is some of these earnings plays, if they build, and they're it can get its way, say, before the open, it can start to base out around here. It'll take out this pre-market, post-market high, and sometimes they go the first candle, and they get very juicy, very saucy. That's a nice, good, God-fearing Christian setup if it sets up. If it doesn't, then we just leave it alone. And just one more here. This had an inside day today, too. This is NXT. This one had this pop, and now you're kind of resting at post-earnings. It's an IPO breakout, too. Only thing is, it was a little bit heavily watched, and, it was starting to act a little bit wicky here. But I think we still got a chance on this. Let's see how it opens up tomorrow. So there's 3 buckets, right? We have day 2 plays. We have our overextended stocks in SMCI, NVIDIA. You could count Vera on this too, right? This is $14. Came to 14. First red day setup. If this pops a little bit at the open, we can green to red this. So you got 3 parabolics. One's triggered or confirmed. The other 2 have not. And then we got day 2 plays, and then we got some earnings plays in Core, PLTR, and I'm sure there'll be all sorts of I'm sure there'll be all sorts of them coming, in the coming days. Guys, let's trade smart, let's trade fast, let's do what we have to do. As always, smash that like button, let me know what you're thinking, and I will see everybody in the Boom Boom Room tomorrow. Peace.